Atma of the Jiva. But Swami Maheshananji also expands the word Prabhu to Paramatma. So you can say, what is the difference between Jivatma and Paramatma, or one and the same? Or one and the same? Yes and no. So Jivatma means the life of an individual, the reality of the individual. Again, the analogy of the ocean comes handy. So there, if you were to study, like supposing somebody wants to do a PhD in the life of a wave, how can you, how does a wave create it? How long does it last? And so you can do a PhD on that. Just digressing it for a minute, I remember when I came to Berkeley in 1964 I meant to do PhD at computer science, but I stopped after master's. And so one of my roommates from India also was in mechanical engineering. And so we used to live together. There was 3 or 4 of us. And so I asked him, and he wanted to do his PhD in mechanical engineering. So I said, after about a month or so, I asked him, I said, so what are you going to be working on? And he was still doing the postgraduate work and so on. I still remember, this was just as, he said, my professors had told me, this is in 64, my professor has told me that what he wants me to focus on is, just look at this, you know the Coke can, and so it has a clip. It has a clip to open the hole in the can so you can drink from it. He says they're having a lot of problems. What are the problems? The problem is that this clip is so tough that it cannot be easily opened. And on the other hand, if you make it too loose, then during transportation the whole thing spills out. And they don't know how to make it in a way that it does both of them. This is the problem. And I was just sitting there and saying, wow, that is an amazing thing. You know, we take it for granted. Nowadays, of course, they have all perfected it. And same thing happens with this glue. If the glue is too tough, then you cannot unglue it. And if it is not, so to find the research, he says that requires a lot of study. I have to really do this. I have lost track of, I don't know whether he did it or so. But at that time in 64, they were having a lot of problems in doing this. This is the study of a given subject matter. So this is what would be called Jivatma. How does the Jivatma work? How is our life is? What are the triumphs and disappointments and so on? Then can also be the Paramatma. Paramatma means the larger, it's almost like one would be the study of a wave and the other one would be the study of the whole ocean. How is the ocean, the temperature of the ocean? The temperature of the wave is only a very small thing. You don't have to study that. But the temperature of the ocean means you have to figure out on a larger level how is this regulated, etc. So this is called Jiva. So Swami Maheshananji takes more of the Paramatma level, Prabhu, and I'll go into that in a minute. But anyway, just to talk about this, so here Prabhu is, in this translation, says the Jivatma. So Srijati na kartritvam. So the kartritvam does not belong to the Atma. Doesn't belong to the Atma. Nor to the objects. It doesn't belong to the objects. And nor is the relationship between them. Na karma phala samyogam. So imagine there are two things involved here. So one is a conscious entity like the human being, right? So there are three possibilities. One is that the doership belongs to this conscious entity. The second one is it belongs to the things that you are, is just a, obviously will not happen, but just to segment it properly, it belongs to the things that you are aware of. Or it could belong to the combination of the two, some kind of a relationship between them. These are the three possibilities. It says that it does not belong to any one of them. Certainly not to the doer, not to the Atma, not to the Jivatma. And it is just the very nature of it. It doesn't belong to anything. It just is the very nature of it, which is the word swabhava. Okay? So that's the word swabhava. So two things to talk about here. One is the viewpoint which is very well explained by Swami Paramarthananda here, because everybody has a slightly different way of explaining, and I like some of his explanations very well. So he says that the Atma is like the electricity. We have talked about it before also. So electricity in an appliance. So whether or not the appliance is working well, or that it is doing its job, like a fan, let's take a fan. So in a very hot weather, a fan is very useful. Very useful because it keeps the air flowing, cools things down, and it is useful. So just look at the analogy of a fan. Is the fan or is the appliance, the parts of the appliance, all the motor and all of the parts of the fan, are they saying, I am cooling the people? Kartritvam, is it on them? It doesn't seem likely, because for one thing, kartritvam belongs to a conscious entity. You cannot say that the table has any doership. It's just sitting there. It doesn't have any doership. Okay, fine. So the fan, the appliance does not have kartritva. Does it apply to the electricity? Not really. The electricity does not say that, you know what, I am going to really cool the people. It is simply there for all functions, whether it is cooling people or heating people, whether it is for fan or light bulb. It has so many different abilities. It is there to give its presence. So now we have a very important, interesting thing. Is it the combination of the electricity and the appliance? No. It just happens. It is just, in that particular case, somebody designed it. So you can say that the person who designed it perhaps has some kartritva. But really speaking, that neither the appliance nor the electricity has doership. Okay? So now let's look at myself as a person. So myself as a person has two completely separate segments. One is myself as the Atma, which is like electricity. And one other thing, to going back to the other example, the appliance cannot even function without the electricity. The electricity can be without the appliance, but the appliance cannot be functioning. It can be there, but it cannot be without the appliance, without the electricity. So go back to myself. So now I have two parts to it, to myself. One is Atma, it's a conscious entity. Pure Atma, conscious entity. Pure consciousness. The other one is the appliance that I have, which is kind of like an entourage. The appliance, which is my body, mind. My hands are moving, my speech, and so on and so forth. So, neither the body-mind complex has doership, nor does the Atma have doership. Why couldn't the Atma have doership? Perhaps the Atma does have doership. No. Why? Because the Atma is formless, partless. It has no parts to it, has no form to it. To do something, you need parts, you need form. So clearly it does not have the ability. Even if it wants to do something, it cannot do anything. It has no parts, no form or anything. No changes. It needs change. At one time you are not doing it, at one time you're doing it, then you're disappointed, all those kinds, nothing, no changes. Atma doesn't have any change. So now we've got a big problem, but we see things are getting done. Things are getting done. So you're saying that neither does the appliance have doership, nor is the electricity, neither the body-mind complex, nor the Atma. Then how is it that it is going on? So this is the appliance in the form of a functioning body-mind which is able to reflect the Atma, the Sukshma Sharira, that has the feeling that I am doing it. And in fact, this functioning Sukshma Sharira is neither jada, neither is it inert, nor is it independently conscious. It is a combination of the two. Combination of the two. In other words, it has semblance of both of them. This is the Swabhava. This is better appreciated if you look at your reflection in a body of water. More than a mirror, just look at the body of a water. Let's just look at that. It could be either one of them. Supposing you look down on a lake which is placid, and is able to reflect you. It even reflects the color of your skin. It reflects your form. Whether or not you have no hair or hair, it reflects that as well. And if you move your hand, the reflection also moves the hand. So now the reflection, is it you or isn't it you? Well, you can't be so purist about it. It is you and it is not you. How can you say that? Because it is you, because it is not reflecting a horse, it is reflecting you. And in fact, it looks exactly like you. And in fact, it just mirrors you. You move your hand, and there the reflection also moves the hand. You take your cap off, the reflection also takes the cap off. It is you. It mirrors you. It's not you. Not you. If somebody drops a pebble into the lake, then the whole reflection goes back and forth like this, and you're just sitting there without moving. It's just a body of water. So also is our body-mind complex. The body-mind complex is exactly like my reflection. It's like a functioning appliance. It behaves in a manner as though it is conscious. Just like a reflection in the water also behaves as though it is you. It's moving. If you move, it moves. Similarly, the body-mind complex behaves as though it is you. You meaning it is a conscious entity. But it is affected by, but it is not you, because you are an independent conscious entity. You are an independent conscious entity, meaning whatever happens to your body-mind complex, you have an independence away from it. Like electricity is an independent entity. Whether or not the appliance is functioning or not functioning, it doesn't matter. It is in fact an independent entity. But the functioning of the appliance in terms of its reflecting the electricity is a dependent conscious entity. So in that sense, the fan, if it's functioning well, reflects the electricity very well. But it depends upon the electricity. It is not independent. But the electricity is independent of the appliance. So similarly, I am independent of my body-mind complex. But the body-mind complex, even though it reflects me, and it behaves like a conscious entity, is not me, because it is dependent. And the funny part is, interesting thing is, that the conscious entity a conscious entity and an inert entity are completely separate from each other. There's no comparison. But it is possible that the two may be mixed up together. And if they are mixed up together, they behave as though it is both of them. But if you start to inquire into it, you find that the body-mind complex, with the reflection of Chit, the Atma, which is what is called Chidabhasa. Chidabhasa means the reflection of Chit in an appliance is called Chidabhasa. So the Chidabhasa appears to be a separate entity and feels that I am the Karta, I am the Bhokta. And worries about things. I am the doer. I did it. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. But I made a mistake, so what can I do? I have to suffer because of it. Bhokta. Next time I won't make that mistake. Karta. Karta, Bhokta, etc. It has some like a separate entity until it is inquired. The classical example given in Vedanta is that from a large Indian wedding. This is done, you must have heard this example many times before, but this is appropriate time to repeat it. Okay, so here's the thing. What happens is that in an Indian wedding, you have a lot of people that come from both the groom side and the bride side. So the groom side, they are, and the bride is the way it happens. The bride side is the one that is responsible for holding the marriage, for keeping the food, etc. And the groom side, they just enjoy themselves. This is all their function and so on and so forth. This is how the inequality of the sexes happens in India all the time. So there's a groom's party and a bride's party. Okay. What happens is that sometimes some unscrupulous people, and now what happens is that the groom's people are brand new. You don't not recognize any one of them. You have no idea. So there's some unscrupulous people will say, and this is actually done. This is done all the time. Somebody will go to the bride's side, sir, I am representing the groom side, and we don't have enough food for the breakfast, and you need to send right away, and send it to room number 102, and send some this mithai and all these rasgullas and pakoras and so on and so forth. So they say, okay, sir, because you cannot make them angry, this is a marriage and so on. Okay, nobody asked us before, but it's okay, it doesn't matter. It's okay, we'll send it to them. Then so they'll get that. Then they'll go to the bride's side and then approach the groom side, because nobody knows this guy. They'll think that he's from the other side. So they go to the groom side and say, by the way, the bride side said, we need some money to give to the temple. It has to come from the groom side. She says, really? Nobody has ever asked me? No, it's just, well, I'm telling you, I'm just coming from the father of the bride. And they said, we need 500 rupees. It has to be done right away. So they said, okay, well, you cannot do this. So they 500 rupees. It goes to room number 102. So he keeps on putting the money there and so on and so forth. So later on, when the marriage is taking place and there is a big feast on and so on, so the father of the bride and the father of the groom get together and says, how are things and so on. He says, everything is going. but there were some last minute requests that I don't know, I wish you had told me that ahead of time. He says, what last minute request? I don't understand. So this guy is sitting there, standing there, waiting to participate in the food also. He's got his own friends and he says, just come on and just you pretend you are there, what have it. He's watching them talking. Watching them talking. So these two guys say, what? I didn't ask for anything. So he says, that guy over there? By the time they are pointing out, that fellow has gone. He says, my ruse is over and I am just going to, I'm going to disappear. This is a false guy. They say this is a very important example, really important example. The ahankara, the I sense, which is taken over the body-mind complex as me, is this kind of a guy. How is he this kind of a guy? Because he goes to the Atma and says, by the way, my whole entourage is getting very hungry. And you're not providing the food. I don't understand why you are just, you're not helping. Help us. This is an important thing for you to do. So the Atma says, okay, all right. Then it goes to the appliance and says, Atma wants you to do this. This is very important for you to do this. So now we have, this guy is playing both sides to each other. And there is no reality to the person. No reality to the person means that he's not a legitimate party to the wedding. There's no legitimate party to the wedding. He's just faking it. So when the enquiry takes place, this guy disappears. So there's a very famous statement, an important mantra, which says, Vicharam na sahate. Vicharam na sahate means that this sense of isolation, sense of limitation, I am so unhappy, I've got such a life, I've got so many problems, and this, that, or the other. This is the false person. This is the false person. And what happens is that we say, no, don't be unhappy. It's okay, just eat some ice cream. So he says, are you sure I can eat it? He says, okay, don't ask it again and again, but this time, just have it. You're so unhappy with life. Just have it, okay? Just have it. So then, you think that it's done? No. He says, by the way, and now I'm happy for a different reason. He says, what is it this time? It just continues on and on. And then you have to go to someone and he says, this is a never-ending thing. Is there a way out of it? And he says, way out of what? He says that, I'm unhappy. And I'm always wanting things in my life and so on and so forth. He says, no. There's no reason for you to be unhappy. Why do you want to do that? He says, who are you anyway? He says, what do you mean, who am I anyway? I'm the one who is the wanting self. I'm always trying to do this, that, or the other. This is who I am. He says, no, you're not. No, you're not. Call yourself out. Inquire into it. And the more you inquire into it, there's no reality to it. It disappears. So this is why it says, Vicharam na sahate. Vicharam na sahate. Same example of the rope and snake. That you say, hey, I think there's something live inside inside this room. And see, there is a birth for a rope, but there is no birth for a snake. That is just in your own mind. And so, but it is there. You cannot say that I'm faking it. I am afraid there is a live snake inside the room. And he says, where? He says, don't approach it because it might bite you. He says, no, but show it to me. And then you shine light on it, and he says, oh, I thought there was a snake. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. And so, really speaking, when did it come about? When it went away? There is no definiteness to it, but it goes. It goes. And so this is kind of like the person who is just pretending, I'm very dukkhi, I'm sukhi, this, that, or the other. But there's no reality to it. But really speaking, the whole creation by Ishvara is in the form of pretension. And in fact, the beauty is, in reality, there is no sorrow. There is no dukkha, no problems in reality. But in pretension, you can have dukkha. You can have sorrow. This is the reality. This is the creation. What a beautiful creation. Supposing it is the other way around. You are in deep doo-doo. That means the reality is full of dukkha. But you can pretend that I'm okay for a while. Can you believe that kind of a reality? No. The whole thing is that Swami Maheshanji was giving a commentary that in the Ramayana, so sage Vasishtha was giving instructions to a young Rama, 13, 14 years of age. And Vasishtha was saying, listen, let me tell you something. This whole life is for fun and pleasure and sukham. Please understand that carefully. The whole creation is full of sukham. And the dukkham, the sorrow, may come and go, but there is no reality to it. It's very possible that sometimes if the dukkham, because of the karma and so on, may result in something where you cannot experience it in this life. Like, for example, these 10 people that were killed in the school. You cannot give this kind of a lecture to them or to their families even, because their life is ruined. But if you look at the continuity of it in next life or something, then you will see even that is temporary. It will go away. We have to take another life for it and so on. But really speaking, so the whole creation is where the underlying reality is sukham. But the imposed reality can be where you pretend as though it is not sukham. But if you inquire into it, you find that it disappears. This is called Swabhava. So as I said earlier in the earlier class also, there are two terms used in Vedanta. One is called Swarupa and one is called Swabhava. So the Swarupa is the ultimate reality, and the Swabhava is the possibility of imposed dukkham on the reality. Now, I gave the example of the earlier class also, that if you look at in the ocean, which we were discussing earlier, the fact that there is a wave is the Swabhava of the ocean. The fact that the reality of the wave is nothing but H2O is the Swarupa of the ocean. The ocean can be without any waves, can be quiet. There's no waves. But if it has waves, it has not disturbed the Swarupa of the ocean. Recently I heard somewhere that they measured, I don't know how they do this, they found in the southern hemisphere an 80-foot tall wave. 80 foot. Possibility. But it doesn't have to have it. Doesn't have to have it. So this is what is called Swabhava. This is the way it is. This is the way, I would say this is the way, even that is not correct to say this is the way it is. This is the way it appears. Is the right translation. So, na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhuhu na karma phalam samyogam swabhavastu pravartate. This is just the way it appears. So now going back to the actual translation of this verse, there's more to be said, but I may not have time to finish all of this. So Prabhu here is the semblance of a conscious person. So look at this. In the Srishti, the creation consists of two entities. One is an experiencer and the other one is the experienced. Right? And so this is what the play of the creation is. And it turns out that both of them are false. In fact, this is exactly what happens when we start to inquire into the reality of this whole thing. I say that the experiencer, don't disturb me, because my coordinates are firm. The question is, how do I deal with the experiences? This is what tell me about, don't bother with me. And if you want to bother with some of my internal ailments, bother, that's okay. But me, this is exactly the false person. The person who says don't bother me is himself false, not there. It's like in a dream, the dreamer says, well, I am for real, but the rest of the dream could be false. I agree with that. But I am real. No, you are also not real. You are also not real. Even the dreamer is not real. The dreamt is also not there. None of you are real. Only the waker is real. And that also for the time being. Even the waker is also not real. Then only the Atma is real, and that's it. After that, you cannot go any more than that. So the question is that there are only two entities. One is the experiencer and the other one is the experienced. and possibly the combination of between of them. Kartritvam belongs to none of them. This is what the now we can go to the mantra, to the verse rather, not mantra but the verse. He says, Kartritvam na Prabhu. It does not belong to the Prabhu. Prabhu here means either the Jivatma or even the Ishvara. It doesn't belong to even the Ishvara. We'll explain that some other time. But anyway, it doesn't belong to any of them. Na lokasya karmani. And the thing, so it does not belong to the experiencer or does not belong to the experienced. And neither karma phala samyoga. Neither the combination of them. Then who does it belong to? It's got to belong to someone. In fact, swabhavastu pravartate. And in fact, I think a good translation of swabhava, which means the nature of the creation, is ajnanam, ignorance. So the vision of a false snake, you cannot do PhD on it, just like you do on a Coke can. You cannot do PhD on that. There's no laws to it. It just happens. Just happens. At best, you can say it because of ignorance, not enough light. Your previous fears, something. And so there's a lot of analysis of this, and they say that the rope can be seen as a number of different things. One of them, it can be seen as a kind of like a garland, mala. It can be seen as a streak of water. Why is it seen only as a snake in that case? Well, because of the involved insecurity of the person, some experiences with snake, whatever it is. So, but you cannot do PhD on it. We don't know. What doesn't exist, you cannot do PhD on. You cannot do that. And so, if you want to say swabhavastu pravartate means it just happens because of ignorance. Anyway, so this is how the teaching unfolds in number 14. So, I just want to make sure I need to leave promptly by 11:30. My granddaughter is having a swim meet, and her first one starts at 12:15 at college. So I told her that I will be there. So I want to leave by 11:30. But anyway, a few things. So I'll cut short on the questions, and I'll just have a couple of more things I want to communicate. So if you look at Swami Maheshananji's commentary, is very beautiful on this side. So he's taken the Prabhu's view as the Paramatma, okay? So, as a Paramatma, the Prabhu has two aspects to the Lord, to the Ishvara. Just like a Jiva, both of them are similar. Jiva is just the Vyashti Rupa, and the Paramatma is the Samashti Rupa. Both are the same. And let's see how. So, one is that the Prabhu appears to you as the samsara, which is true. Because really what we see here is nothing but a form of Ishvara. Because right now we are indeterminate. We don't know who it belongs to. It certainly doesn't belong to me. It's just too big, don't have anything to do with it. But the fact of the matter is, it is the body of Ishvara. It is the very body of Ishvara. Everything is nothing but, there is only one person in the whole creation, which is Ishvara, and it's therefore everything must be the body of the Ishvara. So samsara rupa. So this is what is called karmani. So if you want to go back to this verse, na kartritvam karmani. So the world does not have kartritvam. Really speaking, what it means is, despite my doubts, the world is not out to get me. There is no, it can be done on a relative level. Like for example, if you are an immigrant that does not have a permanent, you can see that Trump is out to get you. That's a very real possibility. But on a samashti level, the world is not out to get anyone. So the kartritvam does not belong to Prabhu as a karma, as a samsara. So again, to go back, Prabhu has two elements. One is as a samsara, just like you and I also have two elements. One is my experiences and myself as an experiencer. So it does not belong to either one of them. So at the macro level also, as a Prabhu, it does not belong to samsara. The other one is the Prabhu as a Srishti Sthiti Samhara Rupa. That means that it is from where the whole experiences come from, they stay there, and then they go back to the Prabhu. So this one is as a Chetana Vastu. As a Chetana Vastu. Chetana Vastu means one which is the very Swarupa. Here another very beautiful example, I thought I'm going to use it more often. Suppose you have icebergs floating in the ocean. And the icebergs are really dangerous things floating in the ocean. That's what hit this Titanic. And so the icebergs have a rupa of their own, but they are nothing but solidified water. So this is what is called Srishti Sthiti Samhara Rupa. Means the very nature, the Swarupa of the ocean is nothing but water. So with the right temperature, the iceberg will become nothing but ocean itself. Right now it is sort of sticking out. So similarly here also, so therefore now we can go back to it, that as a Prabhu, as the very Chetana Vastu, as a very conscious entity, the Kartritvam is not there. Same thing as the electricity. But now we are looking at a Prabhu level. And also, finally, it is not there as a combination of the two. This requires more explanation, and perhaps we'll do that next time. What it means is, Ishvara is not conspiring against you, is not influencing your future. No one is doing it. It just happens, and you need to see the non-reality of it. Even karma and karma phala, even papam, punyam, nothing. It just is there preserved for you, but there is no reality to it if you choose to free yourself from it. Until then, karma will bother you, future will bother you, past will bother you. It is exactly like humoring this guy at the wedding. If you don't challenge him, you don't say, who are you? Because he will pretend as though he's from the groom's side, and you're afraid. You don't want to anger the groom's side. So you say, okay. Exactly like that. But the reality of the matter is that if you challenge it, you will find that it doesn't exist at all. So challenge it. Inquire into it. And so it is just a swabhava, has no swarupa to it. That is the essence of this verse. So we will continue on this. In fact, this next verse, number 15, also continues on this. Na adatte kasyachit papam na cha eva sukritam vipuhu ajnanena avritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. So exactly the same thing is explained a little bit more clearly in the next verse also. So we will continue on that. So this section of the verses number 13, 14, all the way up to 21 is, as you can see, an explanation of the nature of knowledge. You see? It's not a karma or anything like that. That's all gone on the previous to it. Knowledge in the sense how things appear to be until they are inquired into. This is the nature of ignorance and knowledge. So we are taking a section of the Gita which explains that in great detail. So that's what the context is. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay.